Hello again everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's time for part 2 of games I'd love to see included on the A1200. As we know, we should be getting some more details about the A1200, the spiritual successor to the A500 Mini, and obviously with a full working keyboard, so we're all looking forward to that aspect of this. And yet we're mere weeks away, hopefully, from finding out more about this machine. So that will also include the games that are included on it, and I would expect there to be probably around 20, but you just never know. It could vary, but that's generally what they'll include. So we're speculating here on what games we would like to see included, and it's just a fantasy list. It's not like these games are necessarily going to be feasible because of licensing and stuff, just games that in an ideal world we would love to see. And obviously I'm doing a few lists, so I'll probably end up with about 50 games overall in total. I don't ever expect them to include 50 games. This is just games that I'm talking about I'd like to see. And as ever, I'd like you to get involved in the comments, so let me know some of your games that you'd like to. Already on the first part there are a few games included, so thank you for that. We're going to carry on with the list now, so this is part 2 of games I'd love to see included on the A1200. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first game I want to talk about is Rocket Ranger by Cinemaware, released in 1988. One of those games that Cinemaware came out with that was just pure, almost like they used to do these old like Saturday morning TV programs, the black and whites, and I think this is what this was based off of, obviously Rocket Ranger, but it had all the atmosphere of that, you know, like a very scripted, very early black and white TV program, and it just an amazing game to play. I absolutely loved it. There was a lot of frustrations with this game too, don't get me wrong. Anyone who's ever played it before, the takeoff system was an absolute nightmare, having to like press the fire button in time with Rocket Ranger's feet. I always used to find that I pressed the button when his legs were open. That was the timing I did with it. You also had to put the exact amount of fuel for the country you wanted to. This was their copy protect, and it had a wheel that basically had all the countries that you were flying from and flying to, and it would give you a number, and you had to add that amount of fuel into your rocket pack, double if you wanted to fly back from that location. So, and the more fuel you added, the harder it was to take off, and if you didn't take off then you wasted time, and this game was all about time because you were trying to stop the Nazis from taking over, and the more time you spent on that sort of stuff meant the more in-game time passed. So they took over more territories basically and stuff like that. So that was a big frustration, and that's a big reason probably why this game couldn't be included. So even if you include it yourself like I did with the A500 Mini, you're going to have the copy protection, either the wheel. Fortunately, I've got the game, so I've got the wheel. And I think it was different for the US and the UK as well, and Europe, and that different wheels. So again, it might depend what version you get, and I don't know. It is confusing. It is. So that might, well, I'd say it would definitely prevent it from being on here. And it is a frustration that I wish they'd chosen to do something different. Just do a copy protect at the beginning, and then for the game just have something that's universal. I just feel it's a bit harsh to have to keep consulting this wheel and all the rest of it, and it's and the takeoff system is hard, and it's something that I never used to be able to get my head around too much when I was a kid. It was very difficult, but looking past that, the rest of the game was fun. Some people have described it as a compilation of little mini games, which I guess it sums it up in a sense. You've got a lot of like flying and shooting down planes. You also can land in certain locations, and you might have like a little shooting area that you've got like pyramids and stuff like that, or there are parts where you want to get a rocket part from a base and you have to fight somebody, so you've got a little punch up scene, and that I guess quite similar to It Came From the Desert in that sense. But as with all Cinemaware games, brilliant graphics, brilliant atmosphere, and a lot of fun to play if you can get past the frustrations. I must admit, every time I load this game up now, and I still do play it from time to time, I've never finished it, so that's something that I definitely need to do at some point, maybe for the channel, but I've held off playing it for the channel because I will swear a lot because the copy protect thing is hard, and I will fail a lot because I've failed at this game my whole life. So it might be one of them games that I would never finish. We'll see what we come up with, but it still kept me coming back. But as I was about to say, and I interrupted myself, like even now if I do play this game, I still get a touch of like, oh god, I've got to take off, you know. That's like, so that does weigh on you a little bit. So let me know in the comments if you've played this game and if you share my frustrations. But overall, it is a fun game. It is. There are little bits that are very well executed, shall we say, and the story's great as always, and presentation fantastic. Everything you'd expect from a Cinemaware game. The site I go on, Lemon Amiga, I always refer to them because they are the best website as far as I'm concerned for Amiga. They give it 7.86 overall. That's the viewer score, or the reader score, shall we say. Yeah, so it's well respected, this game, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there. Do let me know in the comments what you think of this game. I always thought it was brilliant. There's someone on here that does say, I always thought these Cinemaware games were overrated. Half a star. So maybe you're one of those people. There's another person below. I gotta read this comment. It just says, I've never even managed to take off. It's so frustrating because of the stupid controls that make it impossible. But he still gave it 4 out of 10. He's never taken off, so that's quite funny. But yeah, it's one of those games, if you can look past the frustrations, you will have a lot of fun with that. Game number 2 is Another World by Delphine, released in 1991. Fantastic game, absolutely brilliant, from the people who bought you Flashback, amongst others, because Delphine made some belting games, and I'm sure pretty much I'm going to include all of them games that I played. I'm sure there were games that they bought out that I didn't play, but the biggies that Delphine bought out are all among my favourite Amiga games, and this is no exception. This might be right at the top of the list. I think Flashback probably just edges it for me, but we'll get to that. I've never actually finished Another World, so that's a game I really need to. This is a game as well that's been released recently on other systems. I think I have it on Switch and PlayStation 4, or it'll be PS5 now, but yeah, so it's come out on other systems because it's a brilliant game, and why not bring it out? It also came out on other things, like I'm sure it came out on the SNES and the Mega Drive as well. So yeah, as Flashback did too, to be fair. It came out on multiple systems, but again, another one of those games that's very cinematic, actiony. I just absolutely love this game, and I really should finish it. The first thing I did for this channel, I think I told you in the last video, was when Flashback came out on the Switch. I thought it was the perfect game to start my channel with, and I did, and I finished it for the very first ever time. But I've never done it with Another World, and I really need to do that. Actually, I could actually play it on the Switch, but it'd be lovely to play it maybe for the first time for the channel on the A1200. That would be fantastic. So that could be something that I would do. But yeah, there were parts of this when I was younger playing it for the first time that I got stuck on. I did get a little bit further when I played it on the PlayStation, because now we've got guides and stuff. Obviously, you know, when you do get stuck, you can actually look it up, which back in the day, for us old gamers, obviously we didn't really have that luxury. They started to bring things out later in the life cycle of these computers, but obviously it costs a lot of money to be ringing up these like premium rate phone numbers and all the rest of it. Or you'd have to hope and pray that the game you were stuck on would actually feature in the latest magazine, but sometimes that didn't happen. Nowadays it's very easy to pull up a walkthrough and stuff, so you know, if I do get stuck, maybe I would be able to do that. But yeah, an absolutely fantastic game. I'm not going to talk about the story too much because we don't want to spoil it or anything in case you've never played it. Sounds silly to say that considering the game is like, you know, nearly 35 years old, but it's like there might be people that are being introduced to this stuff for the first time, and you don't want to spoil the story in that sense. You're basically a guy who gets teleported to an alien planet, and that's all I'm going to say. That's not giving anything away because all that happens in the beginning. So really and honestly, you pick it up from there, and literally the first thing you do when you get a joystick in your hand is like try and survive for about 5 minutes. And I guarantee that you will die in that opening screen many times, because I did. Yeah, well, okay, I'm a rubbish game. Well, let's face it, we've all seen me play games on this channel, but yeah, it's a game that you have to be ready for, basically. That very first scene, if you do nothing, you die immediately. So you have to be absolutely on the ball from second one on that game. It only gets more hectic as you go along, shall we say. But fantastic game to play, fun, good storyline, another absolute belter from Delphine, and they couldn't go wrong putting this on. Again, I don't know what licensing's like for any of these games, so we'll see, but let me know in the comments if you've ever finished this one. Game number 3 is North and South, released by Infogrames in 1989. I still never know how to pronounce their names. Infogrames, Infogrames, I don't know. It's one of those. It's a French word, obviously, so it kind of depends on your pronunciation on that one. I go with Infogrames because it looks like games with an R, so that's the way I pronounce it anyway. But that's not important. What is important is the game, and the game is fun. This is one that is quite difficult to score as a single player game because it's not that brilliant as a single player game. But this was a game you could play 2 players on, and this is a game I think that's ideal for the A1200 because if you're going to play 2 players on the one system, someone has to use the keyboard. So that's why I think this will be a good fit for the A1200, and it's a lot of fun to play 2 players. The single player is okay, but it's just not probably as good as playing multiplayer on this one. For anyone who's never played it before, this game I didn't realise actually was based on a comic called The Bluecoats, and I didn't know that actually. This game's actually available for the PlayStation. I think it's called The Bluecoats or something like that, but it is North and South basically. I've never actually purchased it for the PlayStation. My memories lie solely with playing it on the Amiga, and we used to have a lot of fun playing this 2-player, and I didn't play a lot of games 2-player, so this was like an exception to the rule, shall we say. Well, a lot of sports games we would have played multiplayer, but yeah, this was great. It's got a little bit of strategy to it, very basic strategy, let's face it, and that's the most fun part of the game. It's also got some rather frustrating mini games as well, which we will overlook, but so the single player version of those games is not as good. I'm not going to say the single player game sucks, because it doesn't, but it definitely shines more in a multiplayer game for sure. But it's a lot of fun, this game, and it really well done, great sound, great graphics, and I do love, my favourite bit is the strategy bit, of course. There's bits on the train and there's bits that are fought that it doesn't control very well, let's put it that way. If you've ever played the game before, they don't control great, those bits, but the strategy game itself, the on-field battles with moving units around and stuff, and it looks like a strategy game. That side of things is really good. But yeah, it's another one of those games you need to play and experience, and again, I don't know whether we would be able to get this, but I think this would be a lovely game to include on the A1200. It's fun, it's funny, it's also very colourful, good to play, and also, like I said, with a 2-player element, it's nice as well. It'd be nice for people to have games that you could play multiplayer for any new system, and I think this one would be perfect because somebody can actually use the keyboard. So let me know what you think in the comments again. Let me know if you've played it, and let me know how frustrated you used to get at the mini games, because I know I got frustrated at them quite a lot. But overall, a fantastic game and definitely a lot of fun to include on the A1200. Game 4 is another Cinemaware classic, TV Sports Football, published in 1988. Fantastic game. I've told this story many a time, but when I got my first Amiga, I got the Batman pack, and also my dad, he bought that, and he also bought TV Sports Football and Fairy Tale Adventure. They were the games I had to play when I got my Amiga for the first time. And first game we loaded up was TV Sports Football, and an absolute belter. Okay, people are saying now that you go back and play it now, it's not as good. Well, I disagree. I still play it now, and I still have a lot of fun playing it. I've got a video on the channel. I'll try and include a link somewhere where I played for about an hour and a half, and still had a lot of fun playing it. Yes, it's basic compared to modern football games. Of course it is. But, you know, there it is. That's what we had back in the day. Of course it's going to be more basic, because everything was more basic back in the day. Of course it was. But it was fun. That's the most important thing. It was fun. You could fully edit everything. So I got a data disc with an edited team. Okay, not a more recent team. These were teams of players from back in the day. But I've got Dan Marino as my quarterback because I am a Miami Dolphins fan, always have been. And yeah, it's just brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. I just love this game so much. Yes, it's basic, but I don't care, because as long as it plays well, and that doesn't matter, does it? And let's face it, it's full of Cinemaware charm. Again, it's the first Cinemaware game I ever got, because obviously it's one of the first games I got. Never had an experience of them outside of the Amiga, and I couldn't believe it when I loaded it out the first time, the way the presentation was. It was absolutely awesome. Playing it now, it does feel a bit more clunky because things take a lot longer to load. You didn't really notice it back in the day because, you know, when we were brought up with ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64, everything took a long time to load. So we were really conditioned to thinking that the Amiga was quick compared to everything we used to go through. So really and honestly, you didn't notice those things back then. I think we're a bit spoiled now going back, because we think, oh god, this is so slow, or it's so clunky, or it's not as good as it was, and there's not many features in it, because we're spoiled with modern games. But believe me, when you play this game for the first time and you played it back in the day, it was absolutely awesome. Still get a lot of joy playing it now, and yeah, I could, in fact, I might even load up a game and play a game when I finish this, because just talking about it makes me want to play it. So I think that's always a sign of a great game, isn't it? And I love the fact it was so fully customizable, so you could put proper teams in. You could even get all your mates around and put all your mates in the team, you know, and just do things like that. And I love games like that. They're just fantastic. And yeah, TV Sports Football is a belter, and a game that I have played probably as much as any game on the Amiga. I would say it's probably my joint most, or my most played Amiga game. I probably not actually when Kickoff 2 and Sensible Soccer came out. I probably played them a lot more, but it's certainly right up there in the top 10 of the games I've ever played on there. And yeah, fantastic fun. It didn't make my first list, admittedly, which I'm quite surprised at myself that it didn't, but I had my reasons. I just didn't want to pepper the list with sports games. But yeah, this is a joy to play. Let me know in the comments what you think of this as well, please do, because as far as I'm concerned, it's a classic, and all the TV sports games were great, and this probably won't be the last one that features in the 10s that we're going to talk about. Game number 5 is the Chaos Engine by the Bitmap Brothers, released in 1994 by Renegade. Absolute classic shoot 'em up game. It's brilliant, and it's another game you can play 2 players, and it's a lot of fun to play 2 players on. There is also an AGA version for the A1200, but yeah, it's a great game. It can be very hectic, get very difficult towards the end, but it is, I would say, probably one of the best 2-player action games on the Amiga, to be honest with you. It really is a lot of fun, and for that reason alone, it's going to be a good inclusion. Again, I'm all in favour of putting multiplayer games on these new systems, particularly if they're going to introduce them to a new audience, because you want to be able to play with your mates, don't you? And this is definitely one of those games. The difficulty does really spike in this game later on, so it is going to get a bit tricky to play later. But again, we're used to playing games now like Elden Ring and stuff like that, aren't we? So, you know, we're not shy of playing games that are very difficult. It's a possibility that compared to the original, this game can look a tad oversaturated, but I like it though. I like the colourfulness of this one, but you could also turn the colour down on your TV if you don't like it too much, can't you? So I suppose there is that. But yeah, it's very typical of the Bitmap Brothers, this game, if you are aware of some of the stuff that they released. We might be talking about another one of their games on this list at some point. Spoiler alert there. But yeah, overall, fantastic game, great fun to play. And it's great fun to play single player as well, don't get me wrong. You know, if you're not a multiplayer gamer, you can still get a lot out of it playing single player. I mean, that's the way I've played it most of the time. But when me and my brother played together, it was fantastic. And that's definitely one of the big pulls for including it on here. The music's also awesome in this game as well. So, and it is a game that, again, you can just pick up and play. You know, you don't have to. You could have been away from this game for years, and you pick it up and slip back into it, and it's just like being around an old friend. I absolutely love the Chaos engine. One thing I am absolutely gutted about is I had a pristine condition version of this game, and I sold it when I needed some money, and I sold it on eBay for about 80 quid. Someone paid for. It had all these cards and the inserts and everything, all the cards of the characters and stuff, and it was just in absolutely immaculate condition. And when I saw what it was worth and I needed the money, but at that point I just got married and needed a bit of extra cash for home stuff and that, and I sold it. And I look at it now and I think, so gutted. But that's a bad memory for me about this game, but it's got nothing to do with the game itself. It's just something that I did. But overall, absolutely fantastic game, and I would love to see it on the A1200. Next we have Championship Manager 93 from Domark, released in 1993, obviously. And yeah, I've included this one. There is a 94 version, which I would have probably included more, but that's a data disc. So yeah, I would think they would have to have 90. It'd be nice if they put 93 on and the 94 data disc. But you know, I just thought, well, we'll go with the OG. Well, not the OG because it was a Championship Manager, but this is improved on that in every single way. And this is another one of those games that can be played multiplayer because you can have more than one manager. Me and my friends used to all play together, and would take a team, and then you'd have your turn to manage your team. You'd have your turn to play your match and stuff. So it's definitely something that you could play multiplayer as well, which again I think is a big draw for the A1200. And obviously with the extra power of the processor on that, it would run a little bit quicker, I think. I don't know. I've never had an A1200 myself, so I don't know if it would run quicker. Setting a game up takes a bit of time, but once you're in it, the game's alright. It takes a little bit of time to load between matches, like when it's calculating results and stuff, but it's not overbearing at all, and it's just a fantastic game. One thing you've got to avoid though, if you're going into this for the first time, is people will give you tips on a formation that you can pick that basically would be indestructible. You win every single match. If you want to get the most out of this game, avoid that, because you know, if you want to win every single game, it's not a game, is it really? You might as well just sit there and just let the computer run through it itself. You know, the joy of this game is succeeding by doing your own tactics and your own style and everything else. And yeah, there is a bit of a cheat on this one, which I find more and more that people send me comments saying, like, you know, because I'm doing a playthrough on my channel. Okay, I'm very sporadic with it at the moment. I'm very bad at releasing videos lately because of my health, but I still get comments to this day saying, you know, you can change the formation and play this way and win every match. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't want to do that. You know, I want to play it properly. I don't want to win every match. And there is a temptation once you know the formation, when you're losing and you need to win a game, to change to that formation. So my advice to you, if you've never played this before, don't look that up. Just avoid that. Play it the way you want to play it. And yeah, hours of fun with this game back in the day, and hours of fun now still. I mean, I'm still doing a playthrough on the channel, so that should tell you everything you need to know about how good this game is. And yeah, my advice to you, if you've never played this game before, definitely, especially if they include it, then you've got no excuse not to play it. Absolutely brilliant game, and it started everything. You know, these games, obviously the one previous Championship Manager was the original game that started it all, but I mean, they went on to become Football Manager that we know today. So it's unbelievable really that, you know, back then I I'm assuming that the original Championship Manager released in 92. I don't know, actually. I haven't got the facts to hand at the moment. But yeah, it's hard to believe. Over 30 years we've been getting these games, and it was a bit of a kerfuffle. It changed hands and, like, you know, changed publishers and everything. Overall, still the same game that we see today, and that's that's amazing, to be honest with you. But if you want to take a trip down memory lane and go back to where things almost started, not quite where they started, because Championship Manager was the first game, but 93 was superior to that in every way. And yeah, a great game. Only if you're into football, of course. If you're not into football, there's probably not much for you here. Moving on to the next game, it's Theme Park from Bullfrog, released in 1994. This has got some quite scathing comments on Lemon Amiga, but it still manages to get 8.2 out of 10. So, but I must admit, I never played it on the Amiga. I had the PC version, which was an absolute so I can't even think of the word to say without getting my channel banned. But trying to get the PC version to load back in the day, oh my god. I got a new PC, my first decent PC I bought when I was working, and it was the first one that ever had a CD-ROM. Everything was floppy disk before that, and this game was a CD-ROM game, but it wouldn't load. You had to do a boot disk for it, and you had to create this boot disk and then edit it, and oh my god, trying to get it to load. And when you saw the loading screen for Theme Park come up, I've never screamed in absolute joy when I managed to get the game to load. It was one of them games I could never get to work, so I always thought it would probably be good to play on the Amiga, because you don't have to worry about all that sort of stuff. I mean, there are advantages to having it on the PC. Of course, it probably plays a lot better. Yeah, I just figured it would be a good game. It's also an AGA game, so again, it's designed to run on the A1200, and I love these style games. Theme Hospital, Theme Park, and then now we've gone on to like 2 Point Hospital, 2 Point Museum, 2 Point Campus. I've got all of those games on Steam. I love them. I love playing these games. I get a bit bogged down with the business side of things and stuff, but Theme Park was the first one of this type of game that I ever played. I mean, I don't know if Roller Coaster Tycoon came out before or after, but this was the first one I played, and it was amazing. Some of the things you could do, like you could decide how much sugar you put in the food, and you could decide how often people would win the mini games, like at the theme park and stuff, and you know how much salt you'd put in stuff, so then people would want to drink more. You know, it's the little ththings like that. You even had to clean up people's puke, which is like ridiculous. There was so many little things, little details thrown into this game, and yeah, it was very exciting to build your own theme park. We didn't have much of anything like that back in the day. I mean, nowadays I've got Planet Coaster and I love playing those games, you know, but they're very, very technical, which this one was more simple. And yeah, okay, once your theme park started to take off and got a lot of rides in it could get a little bit slow. But again, I've not played the A1200 version. I've never had an A1200, so I don't know if that compensates. Apparently, looking at some of the comments that people have put on Lemon Amiga, they do say it does, so that will be good. But it's a sort of game that you could sink hours into, and they're always nice to have on a new system, aren't they? You know, games that you can really get some joy out of it. And at the end of the day, you build a successful theme park, you might think that's it, but you can just flog the park and start a new one. So yeah, a lot of joy to be had playing the original game. Like I said, I played it on the PC, so I don't have the knowledge of playing it on the Amiga, but from what I'm reading about the Amiga version, it's not terrible. Well, I say that, but then there's someone on here who absolutely does not agree with that, says it's awful on the Amiga, so I don't know. But it got 8.2 from the average votes, so but there's one guy on here called Monk who is just absolutely ripping it, but everybody else is giving it like 5 stars. So my advice to you, if it was on the A1200, is play it and see for yourself. But again, I don't know. Bullfrog, will they be able to get the licensing for this? I don't know. We will find out, I guess, but definitely one of those games you could sink hours into, and I think it would be a very good addition to the A1200. Game number 8 is Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe, again by the Bitmap Brothers, published in 1990 by Imageworks. And I told you we'd have another Bitmap Brothers game, and you probably guessed when I said that what game that was going to be. Yeah, it's a belter. Speedball 2, absolutely brilliant. I try not to include too many sports games because I know sports games aren't everybody's bag, and I don't know if this one counts as a sports game or not, because obviously it's set in the future. It's not a sport that really exists. If you've ever seen the movie Rollerball, that's what it kind of reminds me of. I think it's probably inspired by that movie. Great fun, and it's kind of hard to describe. It's a game that you have to play really to understand. I suppose it's like football, but you use your hands. Basically, you're throwing this ball around, but you can charge into players and barge into them and smack them and knock them over with power-ups and stuff like that, and you get these little power-ups along the side. And you are competing in a league as well, so it's you've got like an overall competition. You can also, it's almost like an RPG in a sense. You can level up your players, buy them improvements and stuff like that to make your team better. There's also other things you can do other than score goals. You've got like a ramp along the side that you can throw the ball up. You've also got stars that you can hit on the side, which give you more points, and so there are other ways to score as well. And overall, just an absolute classic. Great graphics, great sound. Anyone who's ever played it, if I just say the words ice cream, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like it's a classic, you know. It obviously mimics somebody selling ice cream in a stadium, and it just like shouts it consistently. You can hear them in the background. It's just one of the things that even now when I hear it just makes me smile, you know. It reminds me of simpler times, shall we say. But this game is anything but simple. It's, as is in the title, it's brutal. It's called Brutal Deluxe because that's the team that you control. But it also is like a little warning that it is going to be brutal, and it is as well. It's a game that got released on multiple systems as well. I owned it on the Amiga, obviously, but I also had it on the Game Boy. I think I've still got my Game Boy cartridge somewhere for that. And it played pretty well on the Game Boy, actually. You wouldn't think so, but yeah, many a time I was traveling to work, sitting on the train, playing my Game Boy, playing a bit of Speedball too. Obviously, compared to the Amiga version, not brilliant, but you know, amazing that you can play it on the go. And the Amiga version is the OG, and it's an absolute classic. Yeah, I love it. I love it to bits, and I'm pretty sure if any of you have played it, that you'll probably feel the same way. Obviously, do let me know in the comments if you have. I'm sure there are many of you out there that have played this game before, and because it's very well known for being a classic. And the folks at Lemon Amiga give it 8.77 out of 10. From 529 votes. So most of these games, they get about 100 or 200 people voting. This has got 529 people voting on it. So there's a sign of how much of a classic this game is. And I would think it would be a worthy addition to include on the A1200. And another one of those games you can play 1 or 2 players as well. So quite a lot of the games I'm included this time around are 2-player games. And I think as much as I didn't play a lot of 2-player, me and my brother would play the single player and take turns a lot of the time. But if there was a game that we could play 2-player that was fun, we would. And this is another one of those ones that we did. Next game, slightly different for me. It's Pinball Fantasies by Digital Illusions, made in 1993, and another game that is an AGA version, so we can put that on the A1200 as well. This is a 1 to 8 player game, so certainly you can get other people involved in this one. And what a cracking game this was. I'd never, obviously, like I said, had an A1200, so I played the regular version of this game, but it was a belter. Great graphics, very colourful, great sound effects. It felt like you were playing proper pinball, which is the biggest compliment you can give it, really. And I think most people have played this. I had this and I had Pinball Dreams as well. I preferred Pinball Fantasies, personally. Both games are great, so you might have your preference. I picked this one as well because of the AGA version also. But sorry, I was covering my mouth as I was talking, so I was sounding a bit muted. I've got a terrible cold right now, in case you can't tell. This is the reason why videos have been a bit slow coming out. But so I apologise if I'm a bit croaky. The amount of times I've coughed, I'm going to have to do so much editing on this video. But yeah, I'm struggling a bit at the moment. Anyway, beside the point, let's talk about Pinball Fantasies. Absolute cracking game. Also, obviously, let me know in the comments if you've played it. I'm sure you have if you're into these games. There was quite a lot of pinball games back in the day, and some of them were a bit shoddy. When it came to the Amiga versions of pinball games, I think they mostly got it right. For me, this was the pick of the bunch, and that's why it's been included. Came on 4 discs back in the day, so a lot of discs. Lemon Amiga, the folks on there agree, 8.69 out of 10 from 127 votes, so pretty good. There was also a CD32 version of this, and again, I don't know if we can get the CD32 versions onto the system, if they could put that version on. So again, I'm not sure how it works with how they put their games on, but I'd be happy enough with the AGA version. The odd thing about this version, though, from what I've seen, is that it doesn't have like a menu screen. You literally do it all by text, which is really weird. It threw me off for a loop when I loaded up the Lemon Amiga page, because the title screen is just like a workbench screen, and you pick the table from that, which is very odd. Somebody in the comments reckons they probably ran out of disk space and didn't want to stick a 5th disc in there, so they just decided not to include a menu, which is quite weird, isn't it, when you think about it from a presentation standpoint. But it did throw me off at first when I saw this, and I was thinking, where the heck's the menu? Because I like to include the menu screen or the title screen on the screenshots, as you can see in front of you. So I had to include the A500 version of that on here, because I didn't want to put a workbench screen on there. It would have looked very odd. But the gameplay itself more than makes up for that. And you know, if you've ever played a pinball game, you know what you're getting in for here. Nice music, sound effects, colour, fast paced, and definitely Pinball Fantasies has all of that. won't let you down. And I think it would make a very nice addition to the A1200. And the final game for this video is Player Manager by Anko, published in 1990. Fantastic game. If you loved Kickoff, it uses the Kickoff engine, but it adds a management theme to it. You play one player as well, so you only control one player, which is fantastic. For back then as well, revolutionary, you know, the fact that you only control one player on the team. The only thing that lets it down slightly, and I say slightly because it is just a little bit, is it's based on the original Kickoff. So you can only kick in straight lines. You don't have an after touch, which came into Kickoff 2, and it came into the Kickoff expansion pack as well. So it's a shame you couldn't use the expansion pack to add after touch, but I guess it was too technical for them to do. So this is the only slight downside, is that you can't bend the ball and stuff, which would, I mean, if you could do that, would probably be my favorite football game on the Amiga if you could add after touch. I mean, it would just add an absolute, well, I say that, but Sensible Soccer probably overtook it in the end. Sensible World of Soccer, that is. But Player Manager was just, back then, like, because this was years before Sensible World of Soccer, was revolutionary. It was fantastic to play that management element, and the fact that you played like a grizzled old pro, sort of like towards the end of your career, I guess, and you're taking over as the manager, but you also play a bit as well. The only thing I didn't like as well, probably at the beginning, it took ages to generate the player and the teams and all the rest of it. And if you got stuck with a player you weren't happy with, you'd have to do all that start it again, do all that process again. I mean, I like to play as a forward, and so I wanted a bit of pace about me as well. And sometimes it would generate a player that maybe didn't quite live up to the stats you wanted or the position you wanted to play in, and then you're a bit like, what do I do now? So you did sit there. It could take about 20 minutes to regenerate, which back in the day, I guess when you're a kid, you just want to play, don't you? So it's a bit like, I guess you could do it now. You could stick it on and then go about your business and then come back to it. And, you know, I'm assuming it will take that long to generate if they put it on. But again, this is a fantasy list. They're probably not going to put it on the system. But it was just, like I said, we'd never seen anything like it. The fact that you only control one player. And you could sign players as well. And I always used to sign players. If I was signing forward players, it was always be quick players, and then I would design a formation where one of them would just stay up front most of the time, and they'd just end up knocking balls over the top to them. And it was fantastic. There was so much you could do in terms of like other football games of the time, but obviously it's limited to what you could do nowadays. But it was just fantastic. The thrill you got when you scored a goal for your team was just brilliant, because you only controlled that one player. It was fantastic. But also there were moments where you really cringe. It's like if you got slide tackled, you could get injured and you could be out for weeks, and then you didn't get to play the game. So that was really hard. And also you could get sent off. I got sent off quite easily, because sometimes you'd press a button to head the ball, you'd accidentally slide into somebody, you could get red carded, and again you get suspended. So there were moments where you're a bit like, oh god. But that's all part of the fun and the immersion in the game. And we all know how well the Kickoff games play. Even the original Kickoff was fun to play. It's what started it all. So it still plays brilliantly. It's just, it would have been amazing if you could have just had a little bit of aftertouch, but that's the only real criticism, I guess. And it's a playable football manager game, the first of its kind, really, because you're playing as a single player. So what more could you want? Absolutely fantastic. But from back in the day, I played so much of this growing up. And yeah, even when like Kickoff 2 and Sensible World of Soccer came out, I still went back and played this. That's a little testament to how good it was. So it'll be fantastic. It's a single player game only though, so it's not multiplayer, but definitely one of the better single player games out there. And again, I'd love to hear your experiences if you've played this game before. So there we are, another 10 games I would love to see included on the A1200. Those games were Rocket Ranger, Another World, North and South, TV Sports Football, The Chaos Engine, Championship Manager 93, Theme Park, Speedball 2, Brutal Deluxe, Pinball Fantasies, and Player Manager. And not too many sports games, maybe a couple more on that one, if you count Speedball 2 as a sports game, which I don't necessarily, because that sport doesn't exist, does it? Let's face it. But yeah, I suppose it is a sports game when you get down to bare bones. It's certainly not a shooter or an action arcade or a platform or anything like that, is it? So I guess you've got to count it as a sports game, but even so. As with the first 10, these are games I played a lot of, and yeah, there'll be a couple of games I'm sure making the list of games that I've only recently discovered, but mostly this is going to be a list full of childhood memories, because they're the games I really want to see included. I think, like I said before, we'll probably get about 20, I would imagine. If I do 5 of these videos before release, then we'll have 50 games in this list. I may do 10, we may have 100. And obviously I don't expect to see all of them included. It's just I'd like to see games from the list on the system. You know, I mean, I'm not expecting to see all of them. I'd love it if we got about 50 games. That would be awesome, but I think it'll be about 20. We'll see. We'll find out more of those details in October, won't we? So until then, it's just pure speculation. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to put in the comments any of the games that the ones I've talked about that you've played and you liked as well, but also any of the games you'd love to see included. That's what I want to hear. And maybe we can do a viewer top 10 as well before the console. We're going to call it a console rule. No, it's probably a computer actually. It's a working keyboard. I don't know. Whatever. The A1200. Let's just call it that. It's easier. Before that releases, maybe we'll do one for the viewers. Like we'll count up how many people have voted for, and we'll see. We'll do a top 10 that way. Unless you all vote for the same games as me, in which case I'll just be repeating myself, so it'd be pointless, wouldn't it really? But we will see what you come up with. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. See you on the next video. Thanks for supporting the channel as always. I do like to keep saying that because I really do appreciate it. Take care, speak to you soon. Bye for now.